Thank you, Senator.
Thanks.
Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I thank all of the panelists and everyone in the audience and those who are watching these proceedings. What I get, of course, is the utter frustration that you all are sharing with us. And of course, I thank my colleague for her advocacy in getting something done. I am, Dr. Pristine, there is a definition for addiction, and would you say that the millions of young people who are on social media, that they are exhibiting what amounts to an addiction to these platforms?
Within the science community, we're debating over the use of that word a little bit right now to depict social media, but I do think there's agreement that there is clearly a dependency on social media, which we can see in kids suffering from many of the same symptoms that we see in the DSM, the Diagnostic Manual for Addiction to Substances. It seems to apply quite well to the description of kids' behavior and dependency on social media.
And the additional danger to an addiction to social media is that this is such a negative kind of information that they can get. They're bullied, they're hassled, there are all kinds of horribly negative kinds of messages that they get from this particular addiction, which may be, a little bit different. So we do have treatments normally for addiction. Do we have treatments for addiction to social media?
I don't believe those have been adequately studied.
And we probably should study it. And that gets me to Ms. Lemke. You started on social media at a sixth grade, was it? Would you say that you were addicted to social media?
I will say that I exhibited, and thank you for your question, Senator, a dependency that was stated here today, but I do not think that I alone can define what that addiction means. I think that other members of my generation and other young voices should be integrated into these ongoing conversations into what constitutes an addiction moving forward.
Well, did you have a hard time not going to social media on a regular basis, on a daily basis? You spent up to 6 hours on these platforms? So regardless of what the medical definition might be, that when you're spending 6 hours on a platform that didn't make you feel terribly good about yourself, so how was it that you finally broke yourself of this dependency?
Well, thank you, Senator, for your question. It took getting to a breaking point where my anxiety was so great, my depression was incredibly acute, and my issues with disordered eating were rampant. It took about 3 to 4 years getting into the 9th grade, where one day I heard the buzz of a notification and I had the Pavlovian response to instantly grab for it. And suddenly in that moment, I asked why. Why was I allowing these companies to have so much control over me? And that question has led to many more and has gotten me here today to speak up about the importance of having youth voices at the legislative table.
So I appreciate your mentioning that. It sounds, but your sort of the light going off in your head, is that the kind of experience that a lot of young people who are so dependent on these platforms that they can, on their own, will decide, I just can't take this anymore? Or is that one of the reasons that you created Log Off? Can you tell us a little bit more about what your program or the movement does to help young people?
Yes, Senator, thank you. I think each young person who struggles with this issue comes at it from a very different angle. For me, it took reaching that breaking point. For others, they continue to be harmed. And that was the reason I created Log Off. It was to seek out other young people who were frustrated, who were struggling, who were angry, and wanted to talk to each other across our generation, members who understand the experience better than any other group of people across this world. So I created that body in order to have those conversations and to work collectively to move forward in building effective solutions and in discussing those complexities in the online world and living through a digital childhood.
Thank you very much for your stepping up. I only have a little bit of time. I want to get to Ms. Bri. There's been a lot of discussion about Section 230. A number of us have bills to reform Section 230, as do I. I think one of the concerns, though, is that the wholesale elimination of Section 230, which I do support, holding these platforms responsible for the kind of hugely harmful content, but it does get into First Amendment freedom of speech issues. So we need to be very aware that as we reform Section 230 to enable, I would say, lawsuits like yours to proceed, that we do it in a careful way to avoid unintended consequences. But I want to share with you our deepest sympathies for what you continue to endure, and the rest of you. Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Lee.